Level 1. You sit across from a man who never told you his real name. The coffee shop is loud. He chose it for that reason. You applied to 37 government positions after college. This is the only interview that happened off campus, off record, in a place with no security cameras pointed at your table. He asks what you think about your country. You give the answer you rehearsed. He asks what you'd do if your country was wrong. You hesitate. He smiles. That hesitation is what he wanted. The vetting takes 11 months. Polygraphs, background checks, interviews with people you forgot you knew, your college roommate, your high school guidance counselor, a girl you dated for 6 weeks sophomore year. They ask her if you ever expressed anti-American sentiment. She says you argued about foreign policy once. You don't get feedback on whether that helped or hurt. You sign documents you're not allowed to read completely. Sections are redacted even for you as the signatory. You initial next to paragraphs that are just black bars. The last page explains that discussing your employment with anyone, including immediate family, constitutes a federal crime. You sign. Your hand shakes slightly. You tell yourself it's excitement. Training is in Virginia, in a facility that doesn't appear on maps. You learn to shoot, to encrypt, to photograph documents with cameras hidden in pens and watches and buttons. You learn how to follow someone without being seen and how to know when you're being followed. You practice losing tails in shopping malls, subway stations, parking garages. You learn dead drops, brush passes, coded messages, and classified ads. The instructors never praise you. They only tell you what you did wrong. You learn the theory of intelligence, collection, analysis, dissemination. You study old operations, old failures. You read about Aldrich Ames, Robert Hansen, the Americans who sold secrets to Moscow. Your instructor lingers on their mistakes. Poor tradecraft, greed, too obvious, patterns too predictable. He doesn't say it explicitly, but the subtext is clear. This is how not to get caught. They tell you that you're joining the operations directorate. You'll work overseas. You'll recruit assets, people who betray their own countries to help yours. You'll lie to them about who you are. You'll extract their secrets. You'll pay them. Sometimes you'll abandon them when they're no longer useful. The instructor describes this as the craft. You're 23 years old and you believe you're going to save the world. Level 2. You're posted to a city you've never visited. Your cover is State Department, Economic Attaché. You have business cards, an office, a role in official functions. You smile at embassy parties. You memorize the names of local officials, their wives, their mistresses. You catalog their debts, their weaknesses, their secrets. Your first recruitment target is a mid-level bureaucrat with access to his government's procurement records. He's 47 years old. He has a daughter who wants to study in America. He has a gambling problem his wife doesn't know about. You befriend him over the course of 4 months, drinks after work, dinners at expensive restaurants the agency pays for. You listen to him complain about his salary, his boss, his country's corruption. You sympathize. You suggest carefully that perhaps there are ways his daughter could receive a scholarship. He understands what you're asking. He says yes. You meet him in hotel rooms, parking garages, parks at dawn. He brings once if what he's doing is dangerous. You once if what he's doing is dangerous. You lie and say, no, the work is slow. Intelligence isn't like the movies. It's months of cultivation for minutes of actual collection. It's fake friendships and real betrayals. It's sitting through dinners with targets you despise, laughing at their jokes, pretending to care about their opinions. You become fluent in manipulation. You learn to read people like documents, their fears, their vanities, the exact pressure point that makes them break. You run 3 assets simultaneously: a finance minister's assistant, a journalist with government contacts, a secretary in the defense ministry. None of them know about the others. You keep their identities compartmentalized, even in your own reports. You use cryptonyms. The bureaucrat is Cardinal, the journalist is Nightingale, the secretary is Sentinel. They're not people anymore. They're sources. They're intelligence products. They're line items and cables you send back to Langley. You start drinking more. Not enough to be a problem, just enough to sleep. The lying becomes automatic. You lie to your assets about what will happen to them. You lie to local officials about your job. You lie to other embassy staff about where you go, who you meet. You lie in your reports, omitting details that might make headquarters question your methods. You lie to yourself about whether this is who you wanted to become. Level 3, you meet her at a conference on regional security. She works for an NGO that monitors human rights. She's smart, sharp, unimpressed by diplomatic credentials. You're drawn to her because she's the first person in 2 years who talks to you like you're human, not a role. You start seeing her outside of work, drinks, dinners, conversations that aren't operational. She tells you about the things her organization documents, torture, disappearances, the things your government supports when it's strategically convenient. You've read the same intelligence reports she has, but sanitized, bureaucratized, stripped of the human dimension. She shows you photographs. You recognize locations from your own cables, buildings where your assets work, programs your intelligence helped enable. You tell yourself it's compartmentalized, the work you do prevents larger conflicts, saves lives in aggregate, keeps your country safe. Yeah. She asks you if that's true or if that's just what you tell yourself. You don't have an answer. You start noticing things you ignored before. The asset you run in the defense ministry gives you procurement documents. You send them to Langley. 3 months later, a drone strike hits a facility you identified. 43 people die. The target survives. You read about it in the same newspapers everyone else does. Your cable traffic never mentions results. You collect, you report. What happens after isn't your concern, except now it is. You request a meeting with your station chief. You ask about oversight, proportionality, rules of engagement. He looks at you like you've forgotten the mission. He reminds you that you don't make policy, you execute it. Your job is collection, not analysis, not judgment. You're a tool. Tools don't have opinions. You think about quitting, you can't. The security clearances, the knowledge, the operational exposure, you can't just walk away into a normal life. You signed documents that bind you for life. Things that make you a permanent security risk. Leaving means years of monitoring, polygraphs, restrictions on travel, employment, speech. You're already trapped. She tells you about a contact she has. Someone who works with journalists who publish classified information. She doesn't say it directly, but the implication is clear. You could tell the truth. You could show the world what you've seen. You say nothing. You go home. You don't sleep. You start making copies, not many. Just documents that bother you, operations that cross lines, collateral damage reports marked secret that contradict public statements. You tell yourself you're just keeping records, insurance. You don't admit, even to yourself, that you've already made the decision. Level 4. You make contact through encrypted channels, anonymous email, Tor browsers, VPNs routed through 6 countries. You don't use your real name, neither do they. You send a sample, 3 documents, proof you have access, proof it's real, they verify it, they ask for more. The tradecraft you learn to recruit assets you now use on yourself. You identify gaps in your own agency's surveillance. Times when you're not being watched. Methods that avoid detection. Dead drops in cities you visit on official travel. Encrypted files on devices that aren't registered to your name. You become your own asset and your own handler. You justify it in stages. First document, this one operation, this specific abuse, the public deserves to know. 10th document, the pattern is bigger than one operation. 50th document, the whole system is complicit. You stop counting, you just send. The first publication appears in a foreign newspaper. Your documents, redacted, but recognizable to you, the story, breaks internationally. Your agency launches an internal investigation. They're looking for the leak. You attend the same security briefings as everyone else. You watch colleagues fall under suspicion. People you've worked with for years, you say nothing. You let them twist. The security measures tighten. New protocols for document access, mandatory polygraphs every 6 months instead of annually. Cyber monitoring increases. You adapt. You get better at hiding. You learn to clear your digital footprint. You memorize documents instead of photographing them. Transcribe them later from memory. You use your own training against the people who trained you. Your handler, you don't know their real identity, but you think of them that way, asks for more. Specific intelligence on names of assets in specific countries, operational details. You hesitate. Giving up methods is one thing. Giving up people is another. They remind you that the public has a right to know. They remind you that secrets protect abuses. They push, you send. 3 months later, an asset is arrested. Not one of yours, but one you identified in the documents. He's in a country that executes spies. You read about his trial in the intelligence summary. Guilty. Sentenced to death. You tell yourself he knew the risks. You tell yourself you didn't pull the trigger. You tell yourself the truth is worth it. You don't believe yourself anymore. You meet your girlfriend less frequently. She asks if you're okay. You lie. You've become so fluent in lying that truth feels like a foreign language. She asks if you did something about what you saw. You say yes. She doesn't ask for details. You think she knows. You think she's afraid to confirm it. Level 5. The counterintelligence investigation narrows. They've identified a window when the documents were accessed, a list of personnel with the right clearances in the right locations at the right times. Your name is on that list. It's one of 47 names, but it's there. They interview you. Standard procedure. Everyone on the list gets interviewed. The interrogator is friendly, conversational. He asks about your work, your travel, your habits. You answer truthfully where you can, lie where you must. You've beaten polygraphs before in training. This one is real. The chair is hard. The room is cold. The examiner attaches the sensors. Baseline questions first. Is your name your name? Yes. Are you in Virginia? Yes. Then the real ones. Have you disclosed classified information to unauthorized persons? No. The needle jumps. The examiner makes a note. You don't pass. You're placed on administrative leave, pending investigation. You still have your clearance technically, but you're barred from accessing classified systems. You're told to remain available. You're told not to leave the country. You understand what that means. You're a suspect now. You consider running. You have contacts, people who could get you out, countries that don't extradite, but running confirms guilt. Running means you never come back, never see your family again, never live under your real name. You're not ready for that. Not yet. The FBI searches your apartment. They take your computers, your phones, your documents. You watch them bag everything. They're polite. Professional. They've done this before. They won't find anything. You were careful. But being careful isn't the same as being safe. Your girlfriend stops returning your calls. You check the news. Her NGO's office was raided. Computer seized. She's under investigation too. Association with you. Possible conspiracy. You've destroyed her life along with your own. You think about apologizing, you don't. What would you say the evidence is? Circumstantial but mounting. Your travel records align with document access times. Your digital footprint, even cleaned, left traces. Metadata, login timestamps, the cumulative weight of small inconsistencies. They offer you a deal. Confess, cooperate, accept a reduced sentence. 20 years instead of life. You say you want a lawyer. Your lawyer explains the math. The Espionage Act doesn't require proving harm, just unauthorized disclosure. Each document is a separate charge. They have evidence connecting you to hundreds. The prosecution can stack charges until the numbers become meaningless. 200 years, 400, it doesn't matter. It's all life. You make a decision. You contact your handler one last time. You tell them you need extraction. They say it will take time, planning, coordination. You say you don't have time. They ask if you have more documents. You understand the transaction. You send everything you have left, every operation you know, every asset you can. Remember, every method, every safe house, every contact, you burn it all down. They promise you a flight. Level 6. You drive to the airport with a passport that isn't yours. The flight is to Mexico City, then a connection to Caracas, then somewhere without extradition treaties. Your handler arranged it. You don't know how. You don't ask. At the gate, you see them. Too many men in suits for a Tuesday afternoon flight. Positions too strategic. Eyes too focused. You've run surveillance yourself. You know how it looks. They're waiting to see if you board. If you run, you confirm everything. If you board, they arrest you on the jetway where there are no cameras, no witnesses, no public scene. You turn around, you walk out of the airport, you don't look back, you ditch the fake passport in a trash can. You take a bus to a city 3 states away, you pay cash. You check into a motel that doesn't ask for ID. You have maybe 48 hours before they find you. The surveillance net is tightening. Your face will be at every airport, every border crossing. Your accounts are frozen. Your contacts are monitored. You're alone. You consider turning yourself in. The lawyer said 20 years with cooperation. That's survivable. You'd be 62 when you got out. Still a life after. But cooperation means naming your handler. Means testifying. Means helping them catch others. You've betrayed your country. You won't betray the people who trusted you when you did. Strange ethics for a traitor, but they're all you have left. You cross the border on foot. Remote crossing, no checkpoint. You use tradecraft you taught to assets who needed to disappear. You move at night. You avoid cameras. You sleep in abandoned buildings. You look like the people you used to recruit. Desperate, running, alone, Mexico. Then, further south. Countries where American jurisdiction frays. Where cash works better than credentials. You grow a beard. You lose weight. You learn to move through places without being remembered. The skills that made you valuable make you invisible now. You make contact through old. Networks. People who owe favors. People who hate the agency more than they distrust you. You trade information for safety. Documents you memorized. Names you remember. You're still betraying secrets, but now it's just for survival. You've become the asset. Someone else's tool. The news breaks. Your name. Your photograph. The documents you leaked. The damage assessment is classified, but the public parts are devastating. Dozens of operations compromised. Assets recalled. Intelligence partnerships damaged. They're calling you the worst breach in decades, worse than Snowden, worse than Manning. They're not wrong. You watch yourself become a symbol. The left calls you a hero. The right calls you a traitor. Neither side knows you. They're arguing about a cartoon. You're just tired. Level 7. You live in a country that doesn't officially acknowledge your presence. No asylum, no papers, just an understanding. You stay quiet. They don't look too hard. You rent an apartment under a name that isn't yours. You teach English to students who don't know your history. You buy groceries. You walk to the market. You live the small, careful life of someone who can't afford to be noticed. You check the news compulsively. The trial happened without you. Convicted in absentia. 473 counts. 17 consecutive life sentences. The number is absurd, theatrical, but it's real. If you ever set foot in a country with an extradition treaty, you'll die in prison. Your family stopped speaking to you. Your mother sent 1 email, 5 words. I don't know you anymore. Your father said nothing. Your brother gave an interview calling you a disgrace. You understand. They have to distance themselves. They're being watched too. Collateral damage. You caused it. The people you burned are dead or worse. Assets you identified were arrested. Some executed. Some disappeared. Intelligence officers you named were recalled, careers destroyed, some facing charges in their own countries. You tell yourself they knew the risks. You tell yourself the system was corrupt. You tell yourself their blood isn't on your hands. You're lying. You drink more now. Enough to be a problem. You sleep badly. When you do sleep, you dream about faces. The bureaucrat with the daughter, Cardinal. You wonder if he got out. You never checked. You were too afraid of the answer. Some days you believe you did the right thing. The documents you leaked exposed real crimes, torture programs, illegal surveillance, extrajudicial killings the public needed to know. Democracy requires transparency. You're a whistleblower, not a traitor. Other days, you know the truth. You didn't leak because of principle. You leaked because you were angry, because you felt powerless, because you wanted to matter. The ideals came later. Justification wrapped around a core of ego and spite. You betrayed your country for the same reason people always betray. You thought you were special. You thought the rules didn't apply to you. Level 8. Your new handler makes contact in a cafe. You don't know which service he represents. Russian, Chinese, doesn't matter. He knows who you are. He knows what you did. He has proof you're alive, proof you're here. He could make one phone call and end your safety. He doesn't. He buys you coffee instead. He wants information. Old contacts, old operations, things you haven't already burned. You say no. He reminds you that you don't have leverage. You're not a defector with asylum. You're a fugitive with conditional tolerance. That tolerance could evaporate. You understand the threat. You agree to one meeting, just information, historical context, nothing operational. The meetings become regular, weekly, then twice weekly. He asks increasingly specific questions about current operations, about personnel, about capabilities. You tell yourself you're only confirming things they already know. You tell yourself it's survival. You don't admit that you've become exactly what you once fought against. A double agent, a spy for the other side. They pay you not much, enough to supplement your English teaching, enough that you start depending on it. The dependency is intentional. They know what they're doing. They've run recruitment operations too. You provide documents again, not classified ones. You don't have access anymore. But technical analyses, educated guesses about agency capabilities based on what you remember. Introductions to people who might know people. You've become a facilitator, a broker, a middleman in the intelligence underworld. The woman you've been seeing asks why you have money suddenly. You say you got a better teaching position. She asks where. You name a school. She says her friend works there and has never seen you. You say it's a different branch. She looks at you like she's seeing you clearly for the first time. She leaves. She doesn't come back. You're alone again. It's safer that way. Relationships are vulnerabilities. Isolation is survival. You repeat this until you almost believe it. Your handler asks if you'd consider traveling to a conference, a casual encounter with a current agency officer, nothing obvious, just a conversation, a seed planted. You say no. He reminds you what no means. You say yes. The conference is in a third country, neutral ground. You're registered under your alias, academic credentials your handler created. You look different now. Older, thinner, the beard helps. You attend panels, you network, you smile, you deploy the same tradecraft you once used to recruit assets, now used on your former colleagues. You identify a target, young officer, idealistic, disillusioned. You recognize the type. You were the type. You befriend him over drinks. You let him complain about the agency, about bureaucracy, about moral compromise. You sympathize. You don't pitch. Not yet. You just listen. You plant doubt. Your handler will follow up later. Someone else. Someone he won't connect to you. Level 9. You notice the surveillance on a Tuesday. Small things. A car that's been on your street 3 days running. A man in the cafe who watches you too carefully. You've been trained to notice. You've been trained to react. You run your own counter surveillance route. You confirm it. They're following you. You don't know who they are. Could be agency, could be FBI, could be your current handler checking on you, could be a third party. Someone you burned years ago finally catching up. The not knowing is worse than the surveillance. You move apartments, new neighborhood, new name, you tell no one, you withdraw cash, you prepare a go bag, you sleep with shoes on, you're ready to run. The messages start arriving, encrypted, anonymous, they know things, your current location, your alias, your handler's real name. They're not threatening, just demonstrating capability, letting you know you're penetrated, compromised. Someone knows everything. Yes, you try to identify the source. You review everyone you've been in contact with, everyone who knows pieces of the truth. The list is longer than you thought. Asset, handler, colleague, enemy, the categories have blurred. Everyone is everyone. You consider that you're losing your mind. Paranoia is an occupational hazard in intelligence work. The hypervigilance that keeps you alive also makes you crazy. You can't tell anymore if the threats are real or imagined. The surveillance might be routine, the messages might be psychological warfare, or you might be genuinely burned, about to be snatched, renditioned, disappeared. You stop meeting your handler, you stop teaching, you stop leaving the apartment except for essentials. You order food delivery, you don't answer the door unless you've verified it's actually food. You check the peephole 6 times, you're becoming the person you used to hunt. Paranoid, isolated, broken, your money runs out. The handler was your income. You have savings, but they're dwindling. You need work. You need contact. But contact means exposure. Exposure means risk. You're trapped between starvation and capture. You make contact with an old journalist, someone who published your leaks. You offer an interview, exclusive. The inside story, you need money. They need content. Transaction, they agree. The interview happens in a hotel room. 3 cameras, 2 journalists, one you recognize, one you don't. You tell them everything. The recruitment, the disillusionment, the leaking, the exile, the second betrayal. You don't hold back, you're confessing. To them, to yourself, to history. Level 10. You cross another border. You don't know if it's the last one. You're 61 years old now, 17 years since you leaked the first document. You've lived in 9 countries, used 14 names. You can't remember which identity is real anymore. You live in a room above a garage. The owner doesn't ask questions. You pay cash. You have enough for 6 months. Maybe 8 if you're careful. After that, you don't know. You don't plan that far ahead anymore. You read about the agency sometimes, new operations, new scandals, new whistleblowers, kids who think they're the first to discover that power corrupts, who think leaking documents will change things. You want to warn them. You want to tell them what comes after. The exile, the paranoia, the loneliness, the way you become the thing you fought, but they wouldn't listen. You didn't listen either. You think about the bureaucrat sometimes, Cardinal, the one with the daughter who wanted to study in America. You found out. Eventually, he was arrested 2 years after you leaked, tried for espionage, executed. His daughter was barred from university, guilt by association. You told yourself you didn't pull the trigger, but you loaded the gun. You pointed it at him. Someone else just squeezed, the others too. Nightingale, Sentinel, the names from the early days. People who trusted you, who believed you when you said you'd protect them. You didn't mean to burn them. But intention doesn't matter. Dead is dead. You receive a letter, physical mail, rare now. It's from your brother, the first communication in 16 years. He says, your mother died. 6 months ago, he didn't know how to reach you, found you through the journalist who interviewed you. The funeral was small. She asked about you at the end. Wanted to know if you were alive. He told her he didn't know. He's telling you now because she would have wanted him to. He doesn't want a response. He just thought you should know. You read the letter 14 times. You try to cry. Nothing comes. You're too empty, too numb. You burned that capacity away years ago. You think about what you could have done differently. Stayed, faced trial. 20 years would have ended by now. You'd be free. Clear conscience, or at least clearer, but you know you would have run anyway. Self-preservation over principle. Every time. You write sometimes, memoir fragments, justifications for future historians. You try to explain the logic, the necessity, the moral calculus that made betrayal seem like duty. You read it back, and it sounds hollow. Rationalizations from a man who can't admit he was wrong but can't believe he was right. You're not special. That's the truth you finally learned. Every traitor thinks they're unique, thinks their cause is just, thinks history will vindicate them. Most are forgotten. Some are remembered as villains. A few are remembered as heroes, but Remembering isn't the same as understanding. The people who argue about you don't know you. They're arguing about symbols. You're just a man who made choices and lived with consequences. You wonder if anyone will learn from you. Probably not. The next idealist is already sitting across from someone who won't give their real name. Already feeling special, already believing the rules don't apply, already signing documents with redacted sections, already taking the first step. You want to tell them it's a trap, the whole thing, from the first interview to the last border crossing. A trap that feels like purpose, that feels like meaning, that feels like you matter. And by the time you realize it's a trap, you're too deep to climb out. But you can't tell them. You're here, above a garage in a country you won't name, with a name that isn't yours, waiting for the next move, the next flight, the next identity, or waiting for them to finally find you, for the door to kick open, for the story to end the way these stories always end. You think about Cardinal again, his daughter. You wonder if she ever made it to America. You wonder if she knows what you did to her father. You wonder if she hates you. You hope she does. Someone should. The sun sets. You don't turn on the light. You sit in the dark. You've gotten good at sitting in the dark. It's most of what you do now. Sit. Wait. Remember. Regret. Justify. Repeat. Tomorrow, you'll wake up. You'll check the news. You'll scan for your name. You'll plan your next move. You'll survive another day. That's all there is now. Survival. One day, then another, until there aren't any more. In Virginia, a young person sits across from someone who won't give their real name. The coffee shop is loud, chosen for that reason. They're asked what they think about their country. They give the rehearsed answer. They're asked what they'd do if their country was wrong. They hesitate. The recruiter smiles. That hesitation is what they wanted.